Who did that? Fiverr?
Fiverr probably. I don't know, Logan. Logan had it done up right.
Nice. New podcast intro. Digging it.
New podcast intro, guys, for a new podcast. Just like last week, we are here in our Hush South Slopes headquarters, a.k.a. Eric's super cool shop, loaded with antlers to the brim. And yeah, it is a Tuesday afternoon, nice and warm outside here in Utah. And we're just going to sit down and discuss some things. What are we going to discuss today, Eric?
Well, we had a blast doing the last podcast. That was more in-depth storytelling of the Firebull. So thanks to those who watched or listened to that episode. Great feedback. So we're on a roll. We got some momentum. Casey did a podcast with his daughter Braylee on her big elk. And to mix things up a little bit, we're going to just kind of do more of an overview of 5 for 5.
5 for 5. So those of you who don't know what 5 for 5 is, Eric and his buddy Joel, Whitetail Fit, were talking a little bit last year and kind of schemed together this idea of hunting 5 bull elk in 5 different states in 1 year, in 1 calendar year. And Eric, that was his first attempt at it last year.
Yeah, I mean, I would have never thought in a million years that I would hold 5 elk tags in 1 season.
Yeah.
And honestly, like for it to happen, a lot of things had to kind of come together. So just to kind of flash back to when this all started, it really all started when I started drawing some tags that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
One being the one at the expo.
Yep.
Drawing the $5 expo tag, totally not expecting that, like a, for many people, once in a lifetime type of hunt here in Utah. And then I drew another tag on an Indian reservation.
Yeah.
So suddenly it's like things are stacking up quick, and I already had 2 other elk hunts planned. And so at that point I had 4, like real quick.
Yeah. Like in a matter of weeks.
Yep. So it was actually, like you said, Joel, Whitetail Fit. We were on a phone call. I was in the backyard. I remember this specifically. I was in the backyard, and Joel and I have done some elk hunts together. We hunted New Mexico. We were just on a conversation, just talking about elk hunting. I'm like, dude, I have like 4 elk tags. And he's like, dang, dude, that's crazy. I was literally just listening to Joe Rogan and Cam Haines talk about how hard it could be to fill 4 elk tags in a season. And I remember my first response, I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm sure they're more focused on like bow hunting. He's like, no, I legit think they said that it's still a lot to accomplish even with a rifle.
Yeah.
I was like, well, dang, I have 4. I could get 5. There was Colorado that I could get.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the whole idea started.
5 for 5, man. And I mean, just a little, I don't know if we want to dive right into it, but your first elk hunt last year was Colorado, and you took Braden with you on that hunt, and I was with you on that hunt the year prior. And man, that is a tough hunt. In that neck of the woods, that style of hunting, that time of year, that's no small task or small achievement, is killing a mature bull elk.
Yeah, what I have found hunting Colorado's over-the-counter archery tag, which is a great opportunity hunt, and I think for that reason, it is the mecca of non-residents coming from Midwest or East, come out west to hunt elk. The more people that I would run into, I was learning that most of these people were out-of-state guys, and I was, you were there the one year. I mean, we horsebacked in a little bit. Did I do that the year before?
Yeah, we took horses and they dumped our camp and
Yeah.
stuff, and then we ended up moving all over the place from there.
So in that general area, which wasn't like super deep, into the woods, but from public access, when we did the horses, we got the shortcut through private. And you start to feel like we're way back here. But the couple years that I hunted that particular area, I just started finding out people were from all over, and they were getting after it, man. There's a lot of hardcore people out there that come from out of state, and that's like their dream hunt, and that's like the one hunt they train for, they look forward to all year. So many of these people like took off work specifically for like this one elk hunt.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why it's so tough. There's so many people.
Yeah, man. I couldn't believe this is 2 years ago, everybody, but I couldn't believe, one, the number of people, and two, like, how smart those elk had gotten. Like, they were trained to just, like, basically, if you were bugling at them, they were going the opposite direction. Unless you caught one just right with a hot cow or something, got lucky. But, I mean, yeah, it was definitely not find a herd of elk and get them to yourself type of thing. It was some combat hunting, but it's a cool area, and it's a cool, you're in that Quakies, those pine tree kind of feel for elk hunting, which is kind of the pinnacle. But I mean, I feel like there's some spots that you could get to that way less pressure and maybe have a higher probability of finding an elk.
Yeah. I mean, that first year where you and I went, we learned a lot, but when I didn't feel that tag, I just had so much inside of me of like, this mountain kicked my trash that I wanted redemption.
Yep.
And that's why that film that was filmed the next year, this last season, was called Redemption. So just a little flashback. The first year that Matt and I went in there, we had nothing, like no clue what we were getting ourselves into, like what to expect. But we got in there. Clearly there was elk in the area. We're hearing bugles on and off. We were just not having any success with that. So there was one day that I was like, dude, I'm going to sit this water hole. Like, why don't you go scout some other area? And Matt just wanders off and, no communication. I sit there all night and I see some cows and I'm like, this is awesome. First elk I'd ever seen out of a tree saddle.
Yeah.
And the tracks were there to support, like elk were hitting that. And so when I saw those cows, I was like, oh, there's got to be a bull. There wasn't. And so I had, a slow rest of the evening sitting down there. And of course, in the back of my head, I'm like, guaranteed Matt went off and bugled one in. And he's been telling me like the whole time, like, we got to do this and got to do that. And I'm probably like shutting down some of his like ideas. That's just what you do when you're hunting with partners. You both have different strategies and different ideas. But I get back to camp. He's already there. And he's just laughing, dude. Check the camera, dude. Look what I saw. And Matt goes out on this ridge, and you could tell the story better than I can, but I remember Matt just shows me this footage, and there's this beautiful, mature 6-point bull elk at like 8 feet in Matt's video. And it's like shot with a really nice camera. Yeah, and I'm just like,
trying to get it up here on the screen.
I'm like, dude, you called this in? He's like, yeah, man. I just hit a couple cow calls, came screaming in. I'm like, dude, this just doesn't happen.
It was one of those things that you're like, I was kind of just head down. I was honestly just looking for sign and some tracks, and I got to the top of this little ridge, and you can get to a spot where you're just like, okay, this is more sign. It smells elky, and I just had got to this one little ridge, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to rip a bugle down in this canyon. But then I was like, dude, I just feel like they're close. So I was just like, meow, and nothing because it was kind of windy. And I hit a, kind of a longer cow call. Just, and like, it was close, dude. And I was like, uh-oh. And at this point, I'm like pulling out my phone, 0 cell service. I'm like looking around for you for some reason. I'm like, oh, how can I get to Eric? Like this bull's right here. And just turned out, I was like, yeah, there's no way. He's a couple miles down there. So I just backed up against this Quakey dude, and literally at those 2-3 cow calls is all I hit. And this bull just came marching in right over the ridge. And it was a perfect little setup. Anytime you can use topography to your advantage. I saw this actually on the hunting public. These guys just wizards when hunting turkeys, right? So instead of trying to get set up in a nice open clearing or something, they will actually kind of walk these ridges and call, and then when they get a response, they pull back a little bit, so that turkey has to get right to the top of the ridge, and by that point they're in range. And so I kind of used that same technique because it was so open. I'm like, dude, this bull elk have great eyesight. I'm like, he's gonna pinpoint right where that cow call came from, and if he doesn't see a decoy or see an elk, he's not gonna come any closer. So I peeled off the ridge a little bit. And I mean, this video is kind of being dumb and not loading for me, but this bull came in on a string, and it was to the point where it's like, I'm zoomed out on a kind of wider angle lens, looking right at the elk from me to Eric away, and it kind of just came around me, and we just sat there for a second. I kind of just like moved a little bit because I was like, I'm just gonna scare him off now, I guess, and he kind of just took off. But yeah, I don't know why this video is not loading, but super cool experience. Something that like guiding, I never really got to experience an elk that close without shooting it. You know, normally I would have shot that bull when it turned broadside and bugled at 25 yards, but this was a cool experience to really just let that elk kind of do what it wanted to do. And yeah, I got back to camp and I'm like, Eric, check it out, you know? And he's like, oh my gosh, this is what we were trying, you know? Like it just hadn't worked out.
That Matt goes off on his own on a little solo excursion and calls in a stud. I mean, that's a giant bull for OTC. And I actually did get an opportunity close with that bull once again in that same exact spot just days later. And I just wasn't able to get a shot. I had to pull back my bow while he's behind a tree. Long story short, I missed him.
Yeah, that bull was living on this top that was extremely difficult. And I mean, later in that hunt, I ended up spooking a bull off of the wallow that Eric was on because same kind of thing. We split up again because tree saddle hunting's kind of, you can film it pretty solo, and one person in a tree is better than two. Anyways, here's the bull.
Look at this.
This is after he had bugled and everything. This is just, I shortened the clip so it would download, but.
Yeah, this is him after he ripped a bugle on camera. Just perfect lighting, dream elk country. I've always wanted to shoot an elk like in the aspens like that.
Oh, dude.
And Matt's just sitting here, no tag. I'm nowhere near. Look at that, dude. That's insane. For you guys who were just listening or were watching the bull on the big screen, and it's like, that was in a season. I had a tag on a legal public land giant, and I wasn't there.
What's crazy is like, this is not like a crazy telephoto lens. Like this is like what your eye would see. Like this bull is so close. It's hard to like relate that because I didn't really say that in the video. But like at this point, I'm like moving around a little bit because I was honestly getting a little nervous. I'm like, this bull is within arm's length, basically.
He's so pretty. Like his cape, his neck, mane, like the contrast from his neck to his body. Like that's just awesome footage. Look at the snot on his nose.
Yeah,
that's unreal seeing it on a big screen.
Here I zoom in on this thing.
He's thinking, dude, that don't look right. Oh, see ya.
Yeah. But what's funny is he takes off and then I cow call or something and he stops again and bugles. Like you could have killed that bull 5 times. But I think the driving factor of this whole call-in scenario working out was I could hear cows off the edge, just cow talk. You know, there was a hot cow down there or something. Another bull had come in and disrupted the herd to where I timed it just perfectly. 45 minutes till dark, you know, I could hear meow, 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 like all these cows talking. And I mean, just you time it right and you could basically call those elk in with just breaking branches, walking around.
Yeah, that's the dream. And you don't get it often on those public land, you know, opportunity style OTC type of hunts. And that's what we're going to talk about in this podcast is kind of give you an overview of what I experienced last year. So to paint the picture for you guys, I had 5 elk tags in 5 different states. And what I thought was really cool about this whole season was going to be I was able to show and share what it's like to hunt elk in different seasons, in different terrain, and in different managed type of units. So everything from an over-the-counter archery hunt in Colorado that anybody can go get, a limited entry tag in Utah where you're hunting premium ground, and then even had an experience to hunt an Indian reservation for the first time, and I had no clue what we were getting ourselves into then. So we're able to just kind of go throughout the season and show people what it's like to hunt elk from September to December. So pre-rut, through the rut, post-rut, and even winter range. So yeah, we'll just kind of go in chronological order and showcase each one. I'll kind of give you guys, you know, what I experienced, what I learned, and what I'm taking into this season.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I think the the driving factor for you guys at home to continue listening or watching this is we learned a lot. Like, I learned a lot on some of these hunts with Eric. Eric, I'm sure, learned more than he has in a few years. It all kind of just built upon itself, going from one hunt to the next, chasing the same species. But every time we were in a different unit, different playing field, different weapon. And I think there's going to be a lot of little golden nuggets throughout this podcast that you can kind of pick up on. Let's say you drew a late season tag this year, you drew an archery tag. I mean, pay attention to kind of what experiences and lessons were learned, because I mean, it was a rad season, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, let's see, I was with you on 4 out of 5.
Let's see, skip Colorado, right?
Yep.
You weren't on Idaho either.
Nope, I was 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5.
Yep, New Mexico, Utah, and Arizona.
Yep.
So my mindset going into this 5 for 5 and setting this as a goal was like, I want to fulfill each tag.
Yep.
I mean, I buy a tag with 100% intention to fill that thing. And each tag was going to have different expectations based on the tag, based on the quality of the animals in that particular unit. But going into it, I really did. I wanted to fill each of the 5 tags, and I wanted to experience that state in its full hunt entirety, from season to butchering, the pack out, and everything. But what you'll learn is at the tail end of this, that mindset may have changed.
Yeah.
You know, and you guys will catch on to that as we start telling the stories. But we'll start with the first one. It was that Colorado archery tag. My attitude was redemption. I have to get back to that same area. And I was so stuck on hunting that same area in Colorado because it whooped my butt the year before with Matt. And I was like, man, I'm going to take everything I learned. I'm going to go back and apply it. And just hunting like the same area year to year, you learn that, like, based off rain or weather, what you learned might just like go out the window. Not 100%, but my idea was sweet. Water was so important. The year before, I'm going to sit water holes. That was effective. I did have some bulls come in. But this year, it just wasn't effective. There was running water like literally everywhere where there wasn't before. So when you're thinking like early season, and for those of you who like to hunt the water game or sit on wallows, if you get like a high rain before, that changes everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've always heard that elk have to water like once a day. They're like a horse, you know? And I mean, a horse isn't going to walk a mile to water if it rains and there's puddles or new little ponds within a couple hundred yards. You know?
Little springs that weren't in there the year before could totally change their habits year to year. So the tree saddle, which I tried, I just had no luck. The areas that were getting hit by bulls, like little wallows in the trees, they were everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it was so hard to pinpoint any water that was effective. So I tried that general area first. And, you know, elk were there for sure. Like, we had a couple close calls, but we weren't able to tag out. And during that hunt, pretty cool story. The year before, when Matt was there, Matt had to leave early to go film another hunt. So I gave it like 7 more days, I think. Well, while I was out there solo, I was walking down the trail, and here comes a couple guys on horses. And they're like, Eric, oh, that's cool. Never thought I'd run into you. And ended up meeting these guys on the trail and taking a picture, and didn't think much of it. The next year, I had 2 people randomly text me that the little bull I found with Matt, I found the elk skull. It looked just like a kill, and being where it was, you can kind of assume that, hey, it could have been like a hunting kill or wound that was never recovered. But I happened to pack it out.
Yep.
That one time because it was convenient. It just happened to be on our way out. So I had this European bull in my tree in the backyard. And suddenly one day, almost a full calendar year later, so like in August, 2 friends reached out to me asking about that bull we picked up. And they said, hey, I think my friend hit a bull in Colorado, and he says you found it. And that's the bull, because he like stared it down for like 20 minutes at 15 yards, and he knew every single point. It had a G1 that came down.
Yeah, like a true PG one.
Yeah, kind of like a dropper. So that led me to meeting up with him, the guy who had shot it and didn't recover. That was his first bull. But kind of going back to meeting the guy on the horse ends up becoming my really good friend, Chuck. So he was hunting that general area once again this last season. So we started teaming up, and he's super nice. Like, people have like a lot of nightmare stories of like running into other people on public land, but dude, I have like fairy tale stories. Like, everyone I meet in public land, for them, like almost like 99%, we become good friends.
Yeah.
And I really think it's how you approach a situation, you know?
I agree 100%.
That's kind of a funny thing, right? Like, a lot of people are like, oh, guys on public land, or like, this is my spot, or whatever. It's like, if you just go talk to people, you'll probably find out they're willing to share information. They're willing to work together. Most of them.
Yep.
Like, I don't have many of those crazy stories of like really rude people on public land, but I seem to hear them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about how you interact or start the conversation. Like, I've had a couple guys I've run into in some deer basins, and I'm like, hey man, like, didn't know you were in here, but let's work together so we're not stepping on each other's toes. And that's always worked for me to kind of go about it. I mean, you're not forfeiting your rights or your desire to hunt the basin, but you're establishing like, okay, like, we're both in here. We both have a common goal. Like, it's going to be hard for us both to do it, but it's going to be easier if we kind of work together and be like, all right, like, I'm going to take this corner of the basin, you take that corner, or let's glass together, and whoever glasses it up first gets the first talk. I mean,
you might as well just treat others like the way you'd want to be treated, and you might as well work together versus against each other, or end up ruining each other's stocks or whatever. But I met Chuck this year in the same area, and Braden and I just ended up crashing his camp. It's kind of like, hey, do you mind if we just pitch our tent right here? And he had a couple horses, and he was super like so nice that he just kind of committed to hunting with me and like helping me.
Yeah.
Whether that was calling or glassing, anything he can do to help. But we went into that early season hunt thinking that was going to be our jam. And I kind of made an executive decision probably 3.5 days before the season end to move. And I told Chuck, I was like, I don't expect you to come with me, but I've made the decision. I'm going to leave this area and go try another unit.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? He had a really cool story. It's kind of in the film, but maybe not to full detail. He always told his friends and family that one day he would hunt with me.
Yeah.
And like, he was telling me the story on the trail, and I was like getting the chills, because he's like, I didn't know you. I didn't have any contact with you. I've never reached out to you. But he's like, I told my friends and family that one day I'm going to hunt with Eric Chesser. And he's like, I didn't know how it would happen. And he's like, here we are meeting you on the mountain, and now we're hunting together. So he was nice enough to, for them, pretty much just put his tag aside and stick it out with me. So he did that all the way to the end, which we changed units and finally got a bull. So I want to share some of the moments, the last moments of this hunt. It's on the YouTube channel, and it's called Redemption, a Colorado archery elk hunt. We had just switched units, so our backpacks were completely stocked with water, food, and all the gear. So, I mean, all of us were packing a lot of water because this new area, we didn't know of any springs. So we packed a ton of weight. And we'd got there late. We'd met another gentleman at the trailhead. Super nice. Him and his boy were like big Hush fans. We chatted with him for a while, and he wished us luck and kind of sent us on our way. And we were getting up the mountain. And we finally got over the top of this saddle, which I was telling Braden and Chuck both, like, we got to keep moving. I mean, we're all tired. We're all going straight uphill the whole time. I was like, we got to get to the top. Like, this next canyon might be the zone. So we got to the top, in the video right here that's playing in the video version. This is us at the top, and it started to rain on us, and we started seeing some elk in the distance, and then heard what sounded to be like two bulls. So this right here, this is a pretty good spot to kind of pick it up. Go full screen. We had these bulls bugling down the canyon, and Braden actually had the idea of getting out the tent tarp to sit underneath it. And we're sitting underneath it, and it's raining on us, but we can hear these bulls bugle. And my first thought was like, let's not push them and we'll hunt them right here in the morning. But then something just clicked. I was like, guys, we got rain gear. It's raining, but like, let's go. Let's try it. And everybody was about that life. So there's Chuck right there in the video. Braden's behind the camera. And dude, this, you know how it is. If you're ever hunted that terrain, that juniper oak brush mix, when the oak brush is tall like this too, it was just, you can't hardly see ahead of you. You're ducking under everything. You can see our rain jackets are soaked. Like even just the brush was wet enough that once you push through it, you're just getting wet. But we all had rain gear. And this was like, I've talked about it before. Like I never had like a super cool rut experience elk hunt. I've done so much spot and stock and like ninja style.
Yeah, you always told me that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, I've never like called one in. I'm like,
yeah. And Matt's like, you're great elk caller. And he kept saying, oh, it's possible. It's possible. I'm like, dude, trust me. Like I've never had any luck. Like let's just like sneak in and shoot them on a water hole or tree saddle. And this was that moment I waited for it.
What was your thoughts? Like in the bugles, you don't have to be that quiet, don't have to be that stealthy.
We had to be aggressive. Yeah. I knew that we had to be aggressive. We're losing light. And just so you guys know, the reason why this whole sequence is super dark is there's an ND filter on the camera lens.
It's basically sunglasses for your camera lens.
Yeah. So not only is it overcast and raining at last light, we also have sunglasses on the camera. So keep that in mind as you watch this. But as we're pushing through this last little bit, you're almost in disbelief that you can't see them because they're so loud.
Yeah.
I mean, when these bulls would bugle, you're just like, okay, I mean, we're close. Like they're close. Like can't see them though. There's a wall of oak brush and these pinyon junipers. And I remember right here, I remember being like, if I can duck under this tree and like get out to this next somewhat of an open patch, I'm like, they got to be somewhere dang close.
Yeah. So you're just knocked up, arrow knocked. Is your release on? It looks like your release on. Chuck has a rangefinder.
Yeah.
Cow calling a
which
little
was
bit.
Clutch because I was in like kill mode. You know when you just go autopilot?
Yeah.
And you're making moves strategically, but you're not like asking anybody what to do. You're just doing.
Yeah, it's just that like, instinct.
They're still bugling. They're still loud. I can be loud. Like I can kind of like push through these branches. So we got to this opening and they're so loud right here. And up to the left, pause it here real quick. So that's a raghorn. This is the only opening I have, Matt. So you can kind of see it right there. For those of you who are just listening, there's super thick brush and there's just one open lane and it's 25 yards. If anything open comes out in it, and this raghorn bull comes through it and I'm not drawn. Dang. And you can see it in my body language that, I mean, that would have been a trophy. This is day 18, I think 19 possibly.
Yeah.
And I hunted, and we were hunting off our back the whole time. Only having a few days at either the truck and maybe one day at a hotel transitioning. See how bummed I was?
Like, dang it.
So it's, you know how loud that is to kind of pull your bow back, like release it, but they're still going nuts. And there's a big bull to the left that I could never see. And then this 5-point to the right, and he'd bugle on and off too. So those are just over 100 yards.
Okay.
And they see us clear as day. So you're also thinking like game over.
Yeah.
But then you're like, well, they're not running. I'm cow calling. They're confused. Like, they're not like spooked. So I kept chirping a cow call and this calf comes to me. Well, they all start filing past me in that opening again from right to left this time, moving towards the bigger bugle of the bull I never got to see right here. And if you just wait for just a little bit, a cow comes in the shooting lane at like 23 yards. I'm at full draw and I wanted to shoot her.
You were just like so close to pinching it off.
In my head, I'm going, well, it's still 5 for 5. Like I never said bull elk. I said 5 elk.
Yeah.
5 states. And I'm making all these excuses in my head.
Trying to justify it.
But I wanted to fill my tag, dude. Like any of you guys who hunt hard day after day, 2 weeks long, you just want to fill your tag. Yeah. I mean, so right here, this cow comes in and I stop her. And if there wasn't like a small oak brush twig on her vitals, I probably would have shot. Because this is any elk tag. And I just felt like that would have been still such an accomplishment.
Oh, my.
See that stick on her vitals? I didn't want to play with that. So at full draw, I'm thinking, I mean, my hand is just like, should I? I've never killed a cow elk.
Yeah.
The only does I've ever killed are axis deer. I don't think I've ever killed like a mule deer or a cow.
Just antlered only.
Yeah, so far. So we let her cruise by, and then suddenly like all the bugles and the ruckus is going up to the left.
Kind of away from you.
Away from us for sure. And it seemed like the elk that visibly saw us were somewhat spooked, on edge.
Yeah, they're just dragging the herd a little bit or pushing the herd.
Yeah, but the other elk that didn't know what was going on, what I believe happened is the rest of the elk are just thinking it's a rut frenzy. Elk are, cows are running around everywhere doing their thing. To them, I really felt like the herd bull still had no awareness of human presence. So he was still just doing his thing, That's just my guess. So we're running up this hill and we're really aggressive. I mean, when I'm pushing through these bushes, like I'm just mowing them down. Like there's really no chance to be quiet or be sneaky, and there's really no need. Actually, this is one of those moments you got to press.
Yeah.
And you've been in that, Matt, where it's like it's time to go.
There is physically nothing other than scent that will scare the elk.
Yeah, like
you can run. They can even see you a little bit.
Yep.
Just flashes of yourself. Yeah, I've had it where I've had a client or something that I'm like, run. And they start like speed walking. I'm like, no, like run.
Yeah.
Like we got to get over there.
There's moments you have to do that, or else you're just simply not going to get the opportunity. So why not at least try? And right here, there was a moment right here where I was like just about to pull back and say game over.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want to push them too bad.
Yep. And then suddenly the bull just rips the loudest bugle. I'm like, he's not that far. Let's go. So we got up to here where we could see. And I apologize for the lighting, guys. Everything was wrong on the camera when this was filmed. ND filter and even the settings on the camera just were not.
Yeah, shutter speed was a little too low. That's why it kind of looks a little...
that's why you're like seeing tracers and stuff. But here's about half of the herd started to come out of this oak brush flat and started to peel up onto this side hill. And I can see that most of them were cows, but a smaller bull eventually kind of comes up onto the side hill, and it looks so far away in real life and even in this video. But once we finally got up there, it was only like 50 to 60 yards away.
Dang.
Right here, this is where Braden goes, I just saw a bigger bull's antlers, and they were somewhere in the oak brush. So I knew that the big bull hadn't appeared on the side hill yet. And that's when I was like, run.
Yeah.
Like,
Braden does have eagle eyes. Like, I'll give him that. He has some really good eyes.
He has great eyes because I didn't see the horns at this point. But when I decide to move, it's like, again,
you're jogging.
Just running.
Yeah. Like.
And what I love about this situation is Chuck never hesitated. Braden never hesitated. We all just moved and we all just went with instinct. Right here, I knew when this bull was going to come up, I had to clear some trees. So I peel off to the right. Here's Braden trying to get his antlers. I think that's the body right there of the bull. And I run to the right, and thankfully Chuck, who committed his hunt to just hunt with me, was really good with the rangefinder. This is one of those moments where like one of those GPS rangefinders or whatever.
Yeah, the
Garmin,
Garmin sites.
Like range finding Garmin where you can draw and still get an accurate range. So when this bull clears this juniper, he comes out and Chuck's like 55. And I did not realize that he was quartering away as hard as he was until we later recovered the arrow and whatnot. But as soon as I hit him, Braden's like, sound like a hit. I reload, get a new arrow, and Chuck says 61. And I smoked him.
This is where you having fixed pin sights, I mean, you would have never been that fast with a slider.
Yeah, I still shoot. I got a 5-pin right now. 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70 fixed.
Yeah.
Then I can slide after that. And I've shot it so long, it's just what I'm used to.
Yeah.
But as we were both there, I mean, Braden, you can hear it in the cameras, like, dude, they both sounded like perfect hits. The bull dumped out of our view, and it's like, I was in disbelief, dude. It's hard to explain after hunting that hard and being that close to elk for that last, 5-10 minute sequence, and then just making the perfect shot. I was in such a disbelief. I'm like, dude, we can't celebrate yet, right here. I'm like, dude, guys, did that happen? I'm like, we don't know if he's down or not. Like, we can't celebrate.
Dang, dude.
But I literally just couldn't believe it. We hunted so hard, that, and then, going into the season, there was also the 12 or 14, 15 days that I did with you.
Yeah.
So when I think like that was day 19, that was just of that year. It was like
Close
day
to
25
30.
or 30.
Yeah.
Really, really trying to shoot an elk in Colorado.
And that's like a takeaway I want you guys to take away. Like, you see these posts from some of these hunters on social media, or somebody like Eric who's killed quite a few big bulls and quite a few big bulls with his bow. Like, what you guys don't see is like the days where it just sucks and it's hot and you're hungry and you're thirsty and you want to be home, sleeping in your own bed, having just the comforts of home. Like, that's something that stood out to me the more I hunt with Eric. And I kind of touched on this the last podcast. Is just his just mental fortitude and staying out there. Because like the year previous, I think I was out there 6 or 7 days, maybe 8 days with him, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to get out of here, and the guys need my help filming another hunt in Idaho, so I'm out.
Didn't your wife drove from like Salt Lake to way down in southern Colorado?
Yeah. Like, she was like, I need you home for a day, and then Casey's like, I need you over here in 2 days or whatever. Yeah. Dang, dude. And this, I was so happy when you sent us this picture. Like, we were hunting Idaho, me, Casey, B-Mac, and Logan, and you sent us this picture. And no, I think...
Were you guys in
Arizona? And, dude, it all came full circle. I knew how hard you had worked for this bull. I knew how hard you and Braden and Chuck had worked this year. Like, I knew what the terrain was like. I knew what the hunt was like. And you guys to be out there for 17, 18 days, I'm like, man, they earned it. And you were rewarded with a flipping stud OTC bull, dude.
Yeah, that was just the icing on the cake. So, these videos, like I said, don't always show everything. So one fun fact about this is earlier when I was sharing the clip in the sequence of the cows running by, this was the bull I could never see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he was trailing the entire herd, and that's what makes me think that his reaction to all this was, I'm the boss, I'm trailing the herd. Like, yeah, they're running around being fools, but like, it's the rut. And when he came up on that side hill, I had no clue we were behind him. Why those other elk were like looking down at us like, oh crap, like people. So he just had no clue we were there. But yeah, the bull ended up being like a 315 bull.
Dang.
My buddy Jake Jr. came up on the mountain to pull him off with the horses the next day, which was super convenient for us. We had heavy backpacks with camp and everything, and that would have been a beast, even with 3 guys and camp.
So you guys all just go back, just gorge yourself with all the food.
We had
drinks.
The bummer was it kept raining that night. We didn't have rain gear or tents, or we had some jackets, but we didn't have tents.
Yeah,
we had just been sleeping on the dirt on a pad. But yeah, we did. We ate everything. We drank all the water. We're just like so happy. It's second to last day, and we got filled the tag, and it was just unbelievable. Like, for it to come together like that, and that's all it takes. That's the one takeaway on this hunt, is for those of you who are doing these opportunity style hunts, I call them, like over the counter tags, especially archery. All it takes is one elk, one sequence, one evening or one morning to make the hunt the greatest hunt you've ever had. Even if every day is super slow, you just got to stay out there and keep grinding.
Yeah, I think that's a killer takeaway, and kind of ending on this one is, I mean, you just got to put in the work and keep your line in the water,
Yep. consistency and persistence will pay off. It's going to catch up to you eventually. As long as you're out there, you're trying to get better each year. And this was 2 years in the making of really dedicating like a lot of my September to hunting elk in Colorado. Gorgeous bull. I really wanted to shoulder mount him. I haven't yet, but the cape is tanned. But like I bring that bull into this shop and there's some really big bulls in here. But that one just, they all mean a lot, don't get me wrong, but it's like when you work so hard, it just means they have more meaning to them, more story. And I wanted to mount him, but I just running out of space here in the shop. So I left him on a nice European mount, but just a stud bull. We got all that meat off the mountain. I turned a lot of that into burger, steaks, and roasts. Hate to interrupt the podcast, guys, but I've got to tell you about the new Ollin Snapshot Digiscoping system. Ollin.co has released a magnetic Digiscoping setup that allows you to capture HD video through your spotting scope. It's that simple. Capture and share. Ollin.co. Use the Hush code and save some cash.
The Hushlife podcast is brought to you by absolutely nobody. However, if you own a smartphone and you want to save a little bit of money, make sure you check out the OnX Hunt app. It offers a variety of key features to improve your hunting experience. From nationwide public and private land boundaries, waypoints, lines, and all kinds of data you can share with your buddies, to 3D topical graphical maps you can explore while scouting for your upcoming hunt. Make sure you type in code HUSH. You will save 20% on all Hunt app opportunities. And if you want to take it to the next level, hit that elite button. It'll get you access to all 50 states. Absolutely, unequivocally, the greatest tool we take with us on every single hunt.
Okay, so next up, camaraderie, New Mexico?
No, the next hunt was, yeah, you're right. So number 2 of 5 was going to New Mexico to hunt with my buddy Dreo. I've hunted with him for 4 years in a row. I was 3 for 3 going into this hunt, and another public ground hunt. This is a hunt that I would get a landowner tag. And so the system in New Mexico, landowner tags are given to those who own private property in certain areas, and it's all, biologists come and take count of the animals. And depending on the size of your ranch, I'm guessing they may allot you some tags.
Yeah, that's kind of what they reward you with for the animals benefiting off your property is kind of the way I look.
Yep. And some of them can be private land only.
Yep.
And some of them are unit wide. So I've been lucky enough to get a unit-wide tag for New Mexico the last handful of years, and I've been hunting with Dreo, and we've just become such good friends. We connected on Instagram through shed hunting.
Yeah. And
met up to shed hunt, and then eventually hunted together. The first time we hunted was with Jordan, Harbertson, and Ben, and that was that full send film that was put together for movie nights that never really happened because of, quarantine.
Yeah.
But that video is killer. I'm trying to get those files, and I really want to put that video on the Hush channel. Hopefully this year.
That'd be super rad. Would you guys kill 3 bulls?
Yeah, we killed 3 bulls in 5 days. So killer hunt. Ben shot one in the lowland. Jordan shot one in the highland, and I shot one in like the deepest hole I've ever killed an elk in my life.
Yeah, I know where you shot that thing, and I would have been devil's advocate up there like, I don't know if I want to help you get that thing out.
Yep. So this is a fun hunt. Just to kind of recap, we've got mid-October hunt with a rifle. And over the years that I've hunted the tag, I've seen it all. From bulls still with cows and still doing the rut thing. And I've also seen bulls be solo, like the one I killed in full send. He was all by himself. So mid-October, for those of you who haven't hunted elk often, it could be hit or miss. You could hear the bugles. They can be in the rut, or those big bulls, especially the bigger, older ones, can be pulled off just post-rut by even mid-October. So yeah, this hunt's wild. Like my first idea of what this hunt would be before season started was I'm shooting the first 5-point or like mature, nice 5-point or 6-point, like pretty much any 6-point I'm shooting.
Yeah.
Like that one. He's got a busted main beam after his G2. I'd still consider that a shooter bull. But things changed. So 5 for 5 took a curveball on this hunt. Going up on this hunt, with the intent to fill my tag to shoot the first 5-point or 6-point that comes in within good range. And day one just threw a curveball in us all. It was wild. So the year before this, I hunted with Mullet Man, Mike, and Whitetail Fit. So we had 3 tags for 5 days again, and we filled them all. So, which is insane when you really think about just the time and effort that goes into like getting an elk, packing it, taking care of it, etc. We pulled that off twice. And on that hunt, Joel killed opening morning. I think Mike killed on day 3 and I killed on day 5, last day bull. So going into this hunt, especially when you have that momentum, you're just thinking like, you always know it's a hunt, but you're like, we got this.
Yeah, dude. Like just the hunts I had watched of you guys, and I'm like, oh, we're going to that spot.
Yeah, we're going up there with those elk.
And we got Chad Mendez and Shed Crazy and you. I'm like,
Chad had a tag, Shed Crazy had a tag, and we had some horsemen drop camp us, and they took up a ton of gear. I mean,
so,
I had like an ice fishing tent
and a Mr. Buddy heater.
Yeah. We're like, dude, if there's room and they can carry the weight, then let's just splurge a little bit. We had so much food. We had a pair of socks for every single day. And this is like taking, coming from Colorado where you're living on your backpack and you're trying to like be resourceful, and you, instead of carry water, you go to the springs and you do the tablets. This hunt, we just had everything, and they dropped it off at what we called the base camp. But we decided the night before the opener, we would go to even higher ground and pitch a tent, and that would just be like our coyote camp.
Yeah.
But it ended up being like the camp.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I mean,
first, most people, we obviously moved even again.
Yeah, we ended up being several miles horsebacked in. Like, yeah, man. I remember you were like, hey, dude, like, how do you feel about like spike camping for opening day, And I'm like, I'm in. I'm like, what do I need to bring, camera-wise, food-wise, gear-wise? You're like, just stuff for like a night or two,
Yeah.
And then 5 days later, and we're still up there.
Dude, we must have both lost like 10 pounds on that hunt.
Man. Just
from the work and the limit on food and water.
Yeah.
Everything was rationed.
Just melting snow,
Yep. This one was brutal. And that mid-October, you got to consider that time of the year you're going to get weather.
Yeah. And like hiking in, it's like 70, 80 degrees right here.
Yeah, look at us living the dream right there at camp. Like, so excited. Hey, guys, dropping camp. Going to do the dang thing. But that opening day, we ended up hiking even further away. We were so far in there, and Chad got a glimpse of like what he thought wasn't. Well, he said there's an elk. I don't even remember if he said bull. Do you?
Yeah, he said it looked like there was a bull. I think he said it was a bull.
Yeah,
but he couldn't tell what it was.
And kind of went into the trees, and we all just kind of like, we didn't think much of it, right? Like, we kept glassing, but we weren't specifically looking in that particular area. But the bull eventually came out again, and right here, Chad's like, yeah, that has to be him.
Yeah.
Because Chad said he was further up the canyon working right to left. And the bull's busted completely after a second, but I'm like, dude, it's a nice little 6-point. Like, this is exactly what I would expect on this hunt.
Yeah.
It's not like a super desired hunt.
Yeah.
There's not tons of elk. There's not a lot of big elk. And it's really rough country and mostly wilderness. So when this bull stepped out, I was kind of like, cool, we should probably shoot it.
Yeah, one of us should shoot it.
Yeah, like thinking Chad got first dibs. He saw it.
Yeah,
first.
morning number one. I
Yeah.
mean, first light, it's game on.
Yeah, Ben was on the other side of the mountain range right there. And this is the moment where I saw the second bull, which turned out to be just a stud. Like, I went into this hunt thinking I'll shoot I would have shot that broken 6-point and just been like, sweet, great bull for this unit, filled the tag. But then I noticed that bull was pretty much walking towards this one. And when I bumped the scope, I realized there was 2 elk. And then we got eyes on this one. And for the unit, it was just, it didn't take long to be like, okay, for this hunt, for this unit, we should probably focus on trying to kill that bull.
Yeah.
And everything that I previously thought 5 for 5 was to fill each tag was out the door. It was no longer, about 5 for 5. It was about this particular elk right now. That's it. So it didn't take long to pretty much decide I'm committing to hunting this bull. He was a great 6-point, really nice back end, good fronts, just a slammer for this type of like opportunity elk hunt in New Mexico. This isn't like the Gila. You wouldn't be expecting like super big bulls on this hunt. So it didn't take us long to decide we better make a move and get closer. And this is when I'm going up this spine and suddenly there's like a wolf dog right in front of me. Like, no joke. I mean, I didn't see the collar at first, so of course I assume like coyote.
Yeah.
And then this dog just starts like trotting over to us. I look back at Matt. I'm like, dude, what is happening right now?
What is going on?
Matt's just like, wait, what? So this dog, look, I'm just like, what's going on, Matt? Like, what even is this? And this dog is like super chill.
Yeah.
And Chad's like, dude, what's on his collar? And I had a phone number and the dog's name was Pinecone.
Yeah.
It's like etched out into a little dog tag. So I was like, dude, you got to call this guy. Like, he's going to be so happy we rescued his dog. And Chad's called the guy and he calls back. He's like, hey, we found your dog, Pinecone. He's like, oh yeah, where? He's like, way up on this mountain. He's like, oh, that's pretty much our backyard. I'm like, there's not a house. Like, this isn't nobody's backyard.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a house anywhere close to this terrain. And I mean, people put it down in the comment box. Like, a lot of people basically said that dog's lucky someone didn't shoot it.
Yeah. Well, later in this phone call with Chad, he goes, yeah, the problem is he likes to chase elk, is what he said. And
this was one of those situations where I'm like, I'm not like trying to put anybody on blast. Like, we don't use our platform for that, even with the crazy stuff we see while we're on hunts.
Yeah, but when your pet's out harassing wildlife.
Yeah, you have a legit wolf dog. The owner said I took it to the vet, and even the vet was like, this dog's got more wolf in it than I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
So you've got a wolf dog in the wilderness, and the guy, we were telling the guy like, hey, well, we don't know what to do with him because we're on a stalk on an elk hunt. He goes, oh, shoot, that's too bad. He really likes to chase the elk. And I know that's a big problem. And I'm just thinking, dude, if we put this on YouTube, people are going to like blast this guy, which they did.
Yeah.
Like plenty of people said.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. And that's like a whole topic in itself, right? Like wild dogs, or over in Hawaii, wild dogs, or like even feral cats.
Yeah.
In Australia, that's a thing too. And long story short, this owner was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. He's just up there. He kind of likes to run those ridges up there and chase the elk. So we're like, well, we can't let this dog spook this bull. So Matt like gets all Matt McGuire on us, and he pulls out like
some paracord. I tried to tie the dog up first because
we did.
I'm like, all right, we're going on the stalk. I'm going to tie this dog up in the shade. It'll be fine. On the way back up to camp, I'll untie it and that'll be that. But like, it's not going to ruin the stalk. We tie the dog up, take 5 steps, and the dog starts howling and barking.
Yeah. Matt,
I'm like, oh.
Just to give you guys a visual, Matt took paracord, tied it to his collar, and then tied it to a belt loop on his pants. So Matt's like being Mr. Cameraman and like having a husky wolf dog like tied to his hips.
And the dog was not leash trained. It did not like to have a leash on. It was just pulling the whole time. And
yeah, that was a wild day. We hunted the entire day with a dog, and we went down into this canyon going after this bull with a dog. And I'm like, this is not great for like windage. Like there's 3 of us and now we have a dog.
Or we kept having that in the back of our mind. What's going to happen if like the bull comes out, or like the dog smells the bull or sees it and starts howling or running? And then there was another dog in the canyon.
There was 2 dogs.
Yeah.
There was a second black dog off this spine right here.
He was too skittish to come.
He would never come, but he'd kind of hover with us.
Yeah.
So we'd be walking and suddenly you'd like see this black dog, and then he'd dip in the trees. So both dogs, to my knowledge, like hunted with us all day, where that black one was kind of random.
Yeah.
And I really don't know for sure, but there's a chance that elk winded us and the dog, or the dog.
Or that black dog.
Or the dog was down in there. And we never saw the bulls that night. They never came back out on that slope. I just kept thinking, like, we got this big bull I'm really excited for. and we're going to have a dog like legit scare it so far away that we're never going to see it again. I was
Yeah.
like, what is going on?
A great bull, opening day, first light, have all the time and resources we need, flipping dialed rifle. Like, we have all the right pieces just to have a textbook elk hunt here, and then just a wrench gets thrown in there with a dog,
Yeah.
2 dogs, and just like to chase elk. And I mean, this country's not super conducive to glassing or spot and stock. Like, there is very few windows up there.
Yeah, which it turned out to be, and it was one of those falls where the leaves were still on.
Yeah.
All the aspen trees, even in the late October, it was just a late fall, so all the aspen trees had their leaves. Where this bull was living, we just couldn't see him. He only got spotted one more time. The next, was it 2 mornings later?
Yeah, 2 mornings later.
2 mornings later, my friend Dreo, he was nice enough to like go solo around the canyon and spot from afar. Like, he was 13 to 1,800 yards away from this whole canyon. It was like the only place he could really see from there. But he got a glimpse of the big bull at the bottom of the canyon, and Matt and I made a move, like dropped all our elevation.
I think it was like 24 or 2,600 feet in like less than a mile.
Yes.
I remember it was stupid. Like, one of those things, you take a step and you go like 10 yards because you're just like jogging down the hill.
Going down was super fast. Coming out that night was like the never ending ridge, like false top. But we gave it our all, and I held out on that whole hunt and committed to shooting only this bull. And we lost about 2.5 days, which is half of the hunt, to fog and snow. So visibility was down. That was the moment where I thought we were getting into him.
Yeah.
Because we got up this one morning, it was just frosty, and I glassed down into the opening where we had seen the bull, and there's an elk body down there at low light, and I'm just thinking, dude.
I remember the frantic, like, getting the spotter out, like, the adrenaline rush. I mean, I've never felt an adrenaline rush like that, knowing that could be the bull.
Yeah.
And, dude, this is a great bull. Like, this is a nice bull.
This is the bottom end of what I would have shot.
Yeah, and I mean, we're 400 yards away. It's feeding broadside.
Comes out
We
through
built
these
this.
openings.
Yeah, we built this platform to where you could lay prone, basically. And
Yeah, we were ready.
I mean, that bull could have died 30 times.
Yeah, I would have been super happy to fill my tag on that bull right there. Just a nice 5-point. When I was able to finally focus on the scope and like make out his antlers, it was just like a balloon just deflating.
Yeah.
Like, I was so excited because there's an elk right in that same opening, and it's not him. And it's just like, dang, that could have been him. That could have been all we needed to finish this hunt on a high note and shoot the bull I was holding out for. So out of all the tags, I never would have thought that this one would be the one that I'd find like this particular bull worth holding out for.
So what's like the one big takeaway from this? I have one in mind. What's your big takeaway from this hunt?
Takeaway in this, let's see. I'm trying to think of if there's like something I'd have done different or changed.
Yeah, like what would you have done different in this hunting scenario?
The only thing that if I could go back knowing what I know after like that first day is like, I could have tried to sneak through the trees and get a chance at him with the risk of being like really blowing him out. That's why we didn't want to do that day one.
Yeah.
But he just was never there again. So, hindsight's 20/20, but looking back now, well, he was already gone out of the country. I should have just tried when I had the chance and knew he was in there. But I don't know, man. We tried, like we were trying to be strategic, and we had Dreo's help, but it was just low visibility for so long, and we just never really couldn't find him again. We tried different angles. I learned a lot. Dude, the amount of time you and I put boots on the ground and moved around, like, we learned a lot.
The backpacking knowledge I learned on this hunt, like, just of things to always be ready with. This hunt really has me with a hunger to go back this year, like knowing like, okay, just going to be ultra light. I'm going to always carry my tent, my backpack, like always going to have my sleeping bag, excess food, excess socks, like
So stay mobile.
staying super mobile, like more than we ever have, like archery wise, but this is
Yeah.
a rifle hunt. Because I think if we would have, we moved, right now we're like 7 miles,
We had to keep going.
8 miles. Yeah.
So we lost a lot of just time, like moving back and forth. Lucky for us, Ben's brother, Rocky,
Was a champion.
he was a VIP of this hunt for sure. He'd make runs to the base camp to get more supplies like food and water and socks and whatnot. But yeah, I guess it's like don't leave base camp way over prepared than you thought.
Yeah. Or like if we're going to have horses drop us this next time, like drop us clear up on the sky.
Yeah, go even further.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun hunt.
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
A lot of
on
cool
the YouTube
memories.
channel. So we did these longer films this season. People seem to like them. Most of them being an hour
Yeah.
or more.
These failed hunt videos are always so rewarding to watch as a hunter and a fan of the channel. Makes you really appreciate the grind and all the times you do get to notch that tag. Love the content. Keep up the great work, guys. Looking forward to the rest of the season.
Look at the next one. You guys were a lot cooler than I would have been about that dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people don't mess around when it comes hunting season and wild pets.
Yeah, man. This was definitely a grind. I learned a lot as a hunter and a cameraman on this hunt. Just grew. Like I thought it was going to be slam dunk.
Yeah.
Back-to-back years going 3
thought it
for
was
3
too.
out there. I'm like, yeah,
That's what
this is.
the moment you think something's a slam dunk is probably when, if you ever think it is, you should probably check yourself.
Yeah.
How many times have we all been in a bow hunting situation and then you see the animal, pull back your bow, you're like, this is game over, bro. Miss.
Yeah.
What'd you do wrong? Oh, you misranged it. You just one little step wrong, but you're so overconfident that you didn't do your normal checklist.
Yeah, you got to ride that fine line of like arrogance and like confidence.
Super fun hunt. Moving on, the next hunt was going to be a November hunt in Idaho. General season rifle tag. They have these late hunts, and I'm not really familiar with like how common they are across the state or what units hold them. But I know this one did, obviously. And I had a deer tag in the unit that would run to the end of October, and then elk would start November 1. So the cool thing about this, it's called a combo hunt. I think what did we call this? Back-to-back?
Back-to-back, yep.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, let's go up there and hunt deer the last 3 or 4 days, and then all that hunting deer will also be like elk scouting, and we'll take that knowledge into the elk hunt. And lo and behold, man, like we get up there on day 1 of where I want to hunt deer, and there's just elk everywhere. Like you can show that first little section of that hunt for those who are watching the video version, like just skim through it quite a ways. We got up into this country, and sure enough, like bulls right here. So we're looking for deer, and there's just like a herd of elk. And this is the funny thing about elk. People will say there's like a second rut.
Yep, second estrus
cycle. It's hit or miss. You can't really predict it. But even in November, like let's take that last hunt, mid-October, 2 bulls together.
No
They're
guess.
like game over, right? Like they're post-rut. But even in the first part of November into November, people have heard and seen bull elk bugle. This is this is like 2 days before November 1st.
Dude, guiding, I remember one of my last elk hunts. It was second week of November. And I called in a couple bull elk that day.
Really? Were they were still vocal? Huh?
Oh, vocal enough to call them into bow range. And I know that that's private land and they act a little different, but still screaming.
Yeah, so that's what these guys were doing. They're still bugling their head off. They weren't like giant bulls. You saw that. It was a nice 6-point.
Yeah.
He was a little busted up. But at that moment, I was like, dude, here's like a lot of elk still with cows, a decent bull that I'd be super happy to shoot. Again, expectations going into this hunt, nice 6-point, like I'm shooting.
Yeah.
Anything with, nice 6-point. So there was 2 6-point there. One was a lot better. He had a better frame. He was the one who was kind of bugling and piping off. And then there was another one who was kind of like 5x6, 6 by, like just barely 5x6. And he was kind of like number 2 bull.
Yeah.
So since we found these elk here and the elk hunt was going to start in just a couple of days, I was like, let's leave them alone in hopes that other hunters would leave them alone. And that way we can go pursue them November 1st. So the next day we decided to park at the same trailhead, but we would go the opposite way again, just to let them be. And this is a cool part of the story that's never told in the video is we parked there and then another pickup truck parked a little lower down the road. And sure enough, in the dark, 2 headlights come up and they got their headlights and come up. Hey guys, how's it going? It's like, yeah, pretty good, man. He's like, what are you guys hunting for? I'm like, well, I've got the deer tag now. And then I've also got the elk tag. He's like, oh, all right. We're up here looking for elk. Which way you guys going? I'm like, well, to be completely honest with you, this was a guy and his wife, I believe. I'm like, well, to be completely honest with you, like we went up there yesterday, pointing up the canyon. And I was like, we found some elk, so I'm leaving them alone. So today we're purposely hunting deer this way. And he's like, oh, dude, that's totally cool. Like I'll stay out of there too. First reaction's like, no, you don't need to. He's like, we're just looking for elk. I'm like, hey, dude, you don't need to. You have access, public land, do your thing. He's like, no, man, we totally respect that. Like, if you've got elk pinned up there, like, we'll go find more. Trust me. He's like, we got a couple backup spots that are usually pretty good. I'm like, just blown away. Again, just another super positive, respectful interaction with other hunters. That, it didn't need to roll out that way. They could have gone up there and checked out the elk, but they knew that that's where we'd be. And so they just respectfully like, cool, we'll leave them alone. We'll go to another spot.
That's super cool. I think they could sense your honesty and just like sense your I don't know, that you weren't trying to.
Well, you got 2 options, right? You lie out your ears like most people. Oh, we haven't seen any elk. Like we don't know. Yeah, there's probably nothing up there. We've never seen elk up there. Just lie. Well, what if they go up there and see them? Then you just shot yourself in the foot. So instead, I'm just honest. I'm always honest with people out there, man. I'm like, yeah, we saw elk up there. There's a couple bulls I want to go after. All right, well, we're going to peel off over here. So why they did that, we went an opposite way. Braden and I ended up finding some more deer the opposite way to leave those elk alone. And we ended up shooting a buck across the river, kind of close to our camp there. This was a crazy spot when I shot at and missed that buck. It's so funny. Like, there are people who are, see a few of the animals I've killed. Like, what are you going to do now? It's like, keep hunting.
Yeah.
Like in this moment, I'm so situational. Like if I decide in my head, I'm going to shoot one out of a tree saddle, it doesn't matter if it's a 3-point raghorn or a 6-point. Like, it still gets me excited. This 3-point came out of this draw chasing this doe, and you know what it felt like in the moment? I was like, this feels like a good old general season deer hunt. And I could have sat there and been like, meh, pass. But dude, my heart was racing. I still had to get my gun off the backpack. He decided to stop right here, and my angle's different. I have a clear shooting lane. And I shot right over him. It was so close. My gun's zeroed at 300.
Yeah.
And that was like 120 yards downhill, like really steep. And I think I just shot right over him. We watched the video, but it's so funny the things that people pick up on.
Yeah.
There's comments in this one that are like, I just thought it was cool that in the moment you got excited and you were just going to shoot that 3-point and be super happy to tag that buck. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I had buck fever. I still get excited on these type of hunts.
Well, that's what you always hear us say, like the day that stops being exciting, the day we'll kind of hang it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if that, I kind of ran into that on the fifth hunt, which we'll get to, right?
Yeah.
Where you're just fulfilled.
Yep.
And I was happy with the season. But this hunt, those days that I spent scouting deer were vital to being successful on the actual elk hunt. So fun story, on day 1, we backpacked in, Braden and I, and opening day, when you really think like you're way in there and you got all these spots to yourself kind of, I knew that hunters would show up, but man, they showed up from angles I wasn't expecting. And we sat there on opening day and watched 2 spikes get shot.
Dang.
Right underneath us. And I wasn't getting the gun out for any of those. I knew that this bull was in there, which I ended up shooting, and I knew that 6-point was somewhere in there. So I was kind of holding out for the 2 bulls I had seen. But just having those couple days scouting was critical to being successful on this hunt. So day 1, we get those 2 spikes. Those hunters shot those 2 spikes right underneath us and right in the mix of where all these elk are. So opening day was kind of like a typical general season, like hunters everywhere.
Pumpkin patch.
Yeah. Shots ringing off everywhere. You're watching spikes get shot and hit, and you just think it's blown out. But we decided to stick it out, and I'm glad I did, because I think a lot of people would have been like, this spot's toast. We got to leave.
Yeah.
But Braden and I camped out that night, and we woke up. Yeah, this is day 1. Fast forward it to kind of right there. So we woke up to this day 2. Just fresh, like 8 inches of fresh powder in the whole mountain. It was gorgeous. Like, this is the stuff that gets me excited too.
Yeah.
I could be in this situation and be super happy to shoot any bull. It's like I've never killed an elk in the snow. So it's all these, I'm chasing all these situations.
Yeah, all these firsts.
Yeah, this is like first time to shoot an elk in the snow. So this is day 2, and trust me, we're just kind of thinking like, well, it's shot up, but we know those bulls made it. We assumed that the 5x6 made it because those guys shot spikes, and we saw them take care of their elk and retrieve their meat and stuff. Braden saw that bull right there. He spotted this bull, and here we are on day 2, and it's doing the same thing it did on day 1, and it barely skirted some hunters because this bull went through this wide open place. Hunters came over the ridge. I'm like, shoot, I hope they don't see the 5x6. A spike walks out and they shoot it.
Dang.
I'm like, well, I don't think they shot it, but they shot like 12 times. So I'm like, maybe they shot both. There's clearly a couple tag holders. But lucky for us, that bull somehow slipped through all the hunters, and we saw that bull, and I was like, I know what he's going to do, but we have to get from this ridge to the next like backbone right there if we're going to beat him. And if we beat him, then he's going to walk right out to the next one. These ridges are sharp. They're one of those canyons that just have sharp cuts, about 400 yards apart. But dude, I was dying right there. You're way overdressed. You're hot. You got rain gear on, so the clothes aren't like breathing that great. And you're running through the snow. I was so tired right there. I was glad Braden had some of that on film, like running over and hustling over. But we got set up right here, and it really reminded me of like setting up for like a coyote stand.
Yeah.
Like just sit down and watch them come to you, which typically doesn't happen on a rifle hunt. In the situations I've been, you're kind of always tailing them or like trying to get to them.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I know if we get to that backbone and get set up, if we beat him, there's a good chance that he rolls over because we watched him do it the day before right there. We watched that bull come over that saddle and feed right out through that open. And those guys shot, there's like a spike carcass like right here.
Dang.
So for those of you guys just listening, we're watching the opposite side hill, and right about here I gave up. I was like, man, I don't know if he's going to come. So we did a little interview. As soon as Braden turned off the camera, he's like, there he is. And just there he was, dude. We didn't even see him like skyline. Suddenly he's just on our side. So I already had, what I had was the hiking sticks, like crisscrossed with the handles. Have you ever done that?
Yep, with the like wrist straps.
Yeah, to
cradling. Yeah.
To create some shooting sticks. So this bull came out, and I'm like, well, he has no clue we're there. He's just gonna, you can see where he's walking, and he's somewhat on a trail. There's already deer that have tracked out the fresh snow, even from that night.
Yep.
I mean, that snow fell. So I'm like, I know he's gonna come towards us, and I was just like, all right. I told Braden to stop him with a whistle. If you can hear the video, he does whistle. The bull stops, and he's kind of quartering away, but I'm shooting that 300 Weatherby mag, and I'm like, just front shoulder, and stoned him.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy because he took quite the tumble down.
Yeah, dude, he took a spill.
Had it not been snowy it wouldn't have been so dramatic. But I wanted to show it how it is, just like that last comment said, you guys show the ones you don't. Well, there's one that we did, and that's how it happened, and we showed it how it happened. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm asking the viewers, and you're watching a video and you shoot an animal and it rolls, and tumbles down the hill. Is that bad?
Yeah. It's one of those things that's like, ethically, there's nothing you could really do about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, I could see how in the eyes of a non-hunter that could be a little over the top.
Yeah.
But it's part of the experience,
Yeah. Yeah, that bull was dead on impact. Like, just one of those chin slap rifle shots that really drops them.
Yeah, just what's it called? The shock or the...
Yeah.
What's the word? I can't think of it.
Shock drop? What do you got?
I can't even think clearly right now. So
this is one of those hunts where you're going in a general season area. There's a lot of hunters, not a ton of elk. But you just got to be persistent and consistent.
Yeah.
And even though this area was kind of shot up, we kept hunting. And those elk are habitual. Again, like I shared in Fireball, like they're habitual. I mean, they'll get bumped unless you truly like blow them out of the country. They're gone. But in a lot of instances, like they're just rolling their program. Like they're going to be in danger daily by other predators. They can't just be running around all the time. Like constantly leaving.
Yeah.
So we just felt like they're here. Now the cows were still there too. And we show that like the cows were right below us. It's just this bull and wherever that other 6 point went, I don't know. That's the time of year where the bulls can be hit or miss with the cows too. Because clearly they were there in late October, but come November 1st, both the bulls had pulled off all the cows. So you always have to keep that in mind. Like, and again, that's what was fun about the 5 for 5 is showing the different times of the year and the different country we're hunting them in, and just like their behaviors.
So what's a takeaway from this hunt? Just patience and persistence? Yeah,
and God, that's going to be like the number one takeaway of each hunt. But general season, you have to be prepared for other people. You have to know, like, you're not going to be the only person up there unless you're like legit horsebacking in 15 miles. But the takeaway from this is there are still a lot of tags available to people that are general season or over the counter. When I grew up, man, elk was like this, like hard to get tag. I mean, there was open bull tags in Utah that I just didn't quite understand them at the time. But there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of people have this attitude of like, they'll hunt elk when they draw.
Yeah.
But you want to go out in the field and get as much experience as you can on these general hunts. So when you do draw, you have a lot more knowledge and experience hunting them. So you can use that to your advantage and also just kind of like help you stay calm while you have that really, really good tag you've been waiting for your whole life. But for those who want to hunt elk, go make it happen. I think they do these polls and it creates a lot of controversy, like state to state. Does the audience want to wait their whole life to hunt a giant bull, or would the audience like to just have a chance? And the polls show that most elk hunters just want a chance. And so the chances are out there for those of you who want them. I mean, there's general season tags and over-the-counter tags in many of the western states. You just have to do your work.
Yeah, man. I think the biggest takeaway from that hunt is I think it's pretty cool that you've obviously done some e-scouting, done some homework to find some of these spots, but it's like you said, like it's not some hidden gem secret nobody knows about spot. I mean, you're running into a couple hunters on all these spots, but it's like there's other hunters there for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really big takeaway is you just got to keep hunt. I mean, I've seen this with deer time and time again. Like I find a big buck in June, and that big buck's usually there till November if weather doesn't push him out, and people think that they migrate out of there or move off, or a lot of times they go nocturnal, or they just get in that timber and just aren't moving a whole lot. Like, they don't expose themselves. They get big and old for a reason. And I think that's the same for elk. I mean, I see the same bulls year in and year out in the same areas. I'm like, that's their home.
We have this way, I think it's pretty common for us as hunters to like just assume it's over, or assume it's blown out, or just constantly
Why
chasing.
is that? Why is that?
It's the easy way.
Yeah.
It's easier just to say, oh, this is blown out, and move.
Yeah.
And then never think about it again, never wonder what you could have found or if that bull's ever going to come back. It's easier just to move.
Yeah. Because
it's harder to stay positive.
I'm thinking about it like fishing analogy, right? Me and you trolling for kokanee, And the whole time we're trolling, we got our spread. I'm like, okay, we just got to get one. Once we get one salmon, we'll just do laps and we'll just keep running the playbook over them. And I think that that's kind of the same way to some extent, but a lot of these, we're leaving elk to go find elk.
Yeah, don't leave fish to go find fish. Is that the saying?
Yeah, and I think that could be applied to hunting. It's a lot of times it's easier, like you say, just to be like, in my mind, I screwed this spot up, or in my mind, I saw a deer running out of here. So I'm just going to clear my mind and go to this other basin
and start fresh.
But you don't know if there's been other hunters in there blowing it up, know, but in your mind, you have more confidence in a fresh spot. So that's kind of funny.
It is kind of a mind game.
It's 100% a mind game, because the direct correlations between you and some killers that I know, like my uncle, who kills like a 200-inch deer every year with his bow. I mean, you guys just stick to the playbook and do the same thing over and over and over and over and over. I know. That's
why I feel like I never have like any crazy tips to like tell people, because I'm just like, I just keep going.
Yeah. I just keep hiking to the next ridge and glassing.
Which is this next hunt not the perfect example of that?
Are you zoning out a little bit? You need a little energy boost? Take yourself over to mountainops.com and get you some Hush Ignite. It is my favorite source of energy that money can buy. 200 milligrams of caffeine, no crash, clean energy. Use code HUSH at checkout to save you some cash. This hunt was the easiest, toughest hunt I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like, we had food and water. We were sleeping in a trailer with a furnace every night. We were eating steaks, but it's 5 degrees. We're waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning trying to race these mules, these other hunters.
Yeah.
And we're seeing elk every day.
So we're leading into my expo tag I drew that is for a limited entry unit in southern Utah called the Dutton. And I think it takes like 20 to 25 years to draw this tag. And I drew it at the expo. So going into it, I had never really hunted. I've never hunted this unit, but I know it's a limited entry unit. I know it has potential for like absolute giants. But Matt said it's an easy hunt, but it was a hard hunt. Easy for the things that Matt listed, and also easy as in like you see a lot of bulls.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so much like, can we get one? It's like, can we find one that's next level, and can we get it, or find something that we, really stands out to us? So this is a late November hunt. This happened to be one of the coldest late season elk hunts we've had. The hunt is really dependable on weather. If you get one of these late season tags in Utah with no snow, you're in for trouble.
Yeah.
You're in for a tough hunt, because a lot of those bulls they're not coming out. They're not feeding as much. They're not congregated into the lower winter range. They can just be anywhere on the mountain without any snow. But lucky for us, huge snowstorm right before the hunt. It really pushed these bulls down to lower elevation, and it really grouped them up, which made for a super fun hunt because we're constantly seeing bulls, like only bulls.
Yeah, like this first morning right here. What did we see?
Look at that. Like
17 bulls in that canyon?
All these other hunts up till now, dude, I would have been fumbling for my gun to just like shoot that bull right there.
Yeah.
And now I'm on a limited entry hunt where it's managed for older age class. I think their management objection is now 6.5, which they keep lowering in Utah.
Yeah, it was 8
Yeah.
something.
So they're kind of like increasing the tags on some of our units, if I understand correctly. But
Yeah, I heard a study saying, sorry, this is off tangent, not on this hump, that they took the common score of 6-year-old bulls or 7-year-old bulls from every major western hunting state, Idaho, Montana, Utah, Wyoming, Colorado, Montana. I already said Montana, but basically all these states. And they were saying that the average bull was like 340 for that age class.
340.
Yeah. Way higher than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's pretty big. One of the biologists told me that they're finding through their studies, like you just mentioned, that some of the bulls are the biggest at 6.5.
Yeah.
And I know of some bulls that were way older than that were big, consistently bigger each year. So I'm no expert, but that's what they had told me. Like,
I think it's all dependent on the feed.
The feed that year.
Yeah. I think that's way more important than age class, if that makes sense. Because this is kind of an off tangent, but I've seen high fence bulls come from a ranch, 3-4-year-old bulls on a high protein diet, have good genetics, high protein, 450 inches.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
The next year, no protein. They're on a regular elk diet, 320 inches.
Uh-huh.
Drop 130 inches.
Yeah, so that nutrition, that feed throughout early spring when they're shedding all the way to when they're finishing in July, like that's super critical for their antler growth. But this limited entry hunt it was like I didn't even feel like I deserved the tag, man. So I was like, I'm going into this hunt. Obviously wanted to find a giant. I would have loved to, find the biggest bull on the whole entire mountain. But I don't know the mountain that well, and I only spent like the 2 or 3 days leading up to it to try to look around. And I had some help from my buddy Nate. He's become a good friend.
Yeah, Nate's a stud.
Yeah, super nice guy, and he was so helpful. He was splitting up from the group and like doing his own solo jaunts almost every day, just looking for like bigger bulls. But as you can see in the video that we're watching, this video, of course, is on YouTube. It's called Kickstand. There was multiple bulls, just solid, like this one.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's heavy, great 6-point
Look at
frame.
this bull bugling in December.
Late November.
Oh, yeah, November.
Yep, kind of third week in November.
Yep.
This bull, interesting enough, not that impressive on the hoof. And we sat and stared at him so long. You remember, Matt?
Oh, yeah.
You guys got so much film of him.
Yeah, he came out in those pines, too.
He got killed. Dude, thing is impressive. Like, wooded out. We call it wooded out main beams when they're super heavy. And the bull had not been broke, would have been over 360, that bull.
That's a giant.
We knew it had 57-inch beams.
Yeah, we
when
knew
he
the beams.
Yeah, we're like, dang, he's got the beams. But I was really just looking for something that got me really excited when I saw it. And there was so many just nice 6 points.
Yeah. Like that
every
340 to 350 class.
Yeah, like almost every canyon had like a 330, 6-point at least. Super nice bulls. But we just kept looking and just kind of checking canyon after canyon and then kind of back to the same canyon. Like these bulls started getting bumped around big time once the hunt started.
Big time, yeah.
Because the Friday before, they were so chill. But, get foot traffic. You get some horses and mules and spotters and stuff out there.
And these limited entry hunts, man, you're thinking only like 6 or 7 tags. But then each tag holder, I mean, they got, here's that bull.
Look, there's that big bull.
Each tag holder has a party with them, splitting up, doing the same thing.
Look at the mass. Like I didn't realize he was that heavy. A 57-inch main beam and just, the fronts that are like, you can grab them there.
Yeah.
He's not quite like the cucumber-ish, but he's right underneath that.
Dude, yeah, that bull sat there for 20, 30 minutes right there.
It would have been cool because everybody was with us.
Yeah.
My cousin, Corey, who's from California, was with us. My girlfriend, Kate, was with us. And we were just going on like these death hikes every day through like the rocky terrain. But it was so fun because you're constantly entertained by the elk that were up there, but it was cold.
Dude. Yeah, this is one where it's like I have every layer that I brought and I never got like sweaty.
Yeah, and you can hike in everything I'm wearing right here in the video and you're still cold.
Yeah.
But another thing, and I'm not trying to like say it's a bad thing, but if I'm going to be honest about like experience 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, general season public land, like you're really competing with like other general season hunters. And trust me, there's everything from like beginner to super advanced guys who want to backpack in. There's everybody, but for the most part, the average is like just your average weekend warrior like general season type of hunter. On the limited entry units, it's not a competition, but you're up against the best hunters in the state, which are the guides and the outfitters. And there's a reason why those guys are, across the board are consistently killing big bulls and big bucks every year, like every unit, whatever unit is they hunt.
They got the game plan, dude. Like we ran into a couple spotters just flipping set out on every point.
Mm-hmm.
Got their Soros 18s on tripods just sitting there for 8 hours, and it's like
fancy radios, probably like with their own channel.
Yep.
Stuff like that. And again, I'm not trying to say this is a bad thing. The guides are really good at what they do, and that's why they're successful. But when you go to these limited entry units, it's a shift in competition.
Yeah, and it is competition. I mean, we're all trying to hunt the biggest bull, find the biggest bull, kill the biggest bull, and I mean, it's a good and a bad thing when you run into like the local outfitters. You're like, shoot, man, like they're in here with their mules, they're in here with their spotters, but then you're like, that means a big bull's got to be close.
It must be in here for a reason. And everybody was super nice. Again, we had some moments where we were on the trails, kind of leading the way, but in the dark, the mules would eventually catch up. And it's just the one time they were nice, right? They pulled us over and said, hey guys, we hate to bump in front of you, but we got a bull that's possibly wounded up here that we need to finish. So again, it wasn't a bad interaction whatsoever, but it was a reminder of I'm on foot thinking we're pretty hardcore, but these guys on mules, which there was multiple camps of them, they're on another level.
Yeah, that's the efficient way.
That's the efficient way. They can get to wherever they need to way faster.
Oh, dude.
And when there's 5 of them, or even let's say even 3 of them, and they all split up, now you have eagle eyes, on each canyon. So it was kind of a moment where you're just like realizing, all right, there's some big bulls in here, but we got other people hunting them way more strategic than we are.
Yeah.
But we just kept going, and another guy, Hayden Rogers, was on the unit, and his friend had a tag. He's the one who killed that bull. He had given me a tip on a big bull in a canyon where they didn't have time to get to, and they told me there's a big bull in there, and I'm pretty positive it's this one.
Dude, if that last bull was heavy and wooded out, this thing looks every bit as heavy as the last bull.
This is the tricky thing about a limited entry hunt. It just gets in your head so much. Where other hunts, it's like you see the first 6 point, you shoot it and you're happy. When you get these limited tags, you really are just like playing this mind game of like, you're kind of putting a little layer of stress on yourself of like, you want to find the biggest bull you possibly can. And we found that bull, and I looked at it. My first instinct was, guys, we're going after this bull. I'm going to shoot him. Then I just looked at him a little longer, and I decided to pass. Yeah. I decided to pass up the opportunity to pursue him because his G1s were short.
I was a little like looking at this bull. I'm like,
I could have used some influence.
This is that next level that we've been looking for.
Yeah, that's a 370, 375.
Yeah, and when we all first saw, I remember us all just like frantic for a minute.
Yep.
Like, oh, dude, that giant, and then it was almost too easy. Like, he's just right there. Yeah. He's just feeding. And then we're all like, and just talked ourselves out of it.
Just walked off the ridge.
Yeah, like,
with
never
daylight.
went back.
Yeah, with daylight left and never went back. Gorgeous bull. Like, if somebody is able to kill him, like, is going to have a super great hunt and be super happy with that bull. But we were just kind of looking for something who stands out. And then at the evening, like 3 or 4, you think, Matt?
Yeah.
Evening 3 or 4, we started off by seeing 2 really, really nice 6 points. These things were like twinners, 330, 340 bulls.
Yep.
Both of them in, well, that one's not 340. Wasn't there another big one?
I think there's 2.
2 that were like in the
Yeah,
same
that one was
caliber.
kind of lower to the right.
So these bulls are nice, and we were pretty entertained watching them. And the fun part about this is we'd never been in this knob, but it was kind of like studying OnX and being like, let's get here. It's a good high knob. And it was on the backside where we were kind of thinking with pressure recently that maybe some bulls would pull into this canyon. So when you start picking out bulls that are in your zone, after making a plan like that, it's pretty rewarding. But at last light, we heard a gunshot.
Yep.
And we were just kind of like, wasn't there 2?
Yeah, 2 gunshots.
Well, Matt looks over like far away, far away. And he's like, dude, there's a bull. And I'm thinking, I remember like I found it right away just because the sound of the gunshots.
Yeah, we are all just like, I was like, dude, bull. Because it was in the open. And then you and Braden were like, got him.
At first, I was like, I'm never going to catch this thing in the scope. But I had time to pull off my scope and pull on the Ollin adapter to capture this clip right here, which I thought I was looking at a 400-incher.
Dude, I remember, look at us. Like, we're all sitting there.
Yeah.
It's that same adrenaline rush where you're just like, bro, that's when you're looking at a bull like that big through a spotting scope and the sun's hitting them. It's just like, we have a tag in our pocket. We have time. We have a target now, you know?
Yep. When this bull walked out, it was an instant like, that's the one. Like, we're going to hunt that bull. We can tell he had giant fronts in the short video clip that we got.
Yeah.
And we can tell he had an extra on his left. And it took me a minute to realize what was the extra and what was considered like his main frame. But how many times did we like watch this video back at camp?
Oh, we showed it to like 10 people and we're all like, dude, 395.
Yeah, I was
405. Like,
with fronts like that, I was like, dude, those add up. They're all 20. Like, I was over exaggerating this bull big time. But he got me so excited that like this was going to be the bull, whether it was 400 or his 350. Like, he just had a look to him. And with that extra, that got me super excited. So that's what we did. Is I remember calling Shed crazy. He was in Colorado on an elk hunt. I'm like, dude, we found a bull we're going after. Ben's like, I'm driving there.
Yep.
And Shed crazy and his brother Rocky abandoned their hunt and drove all the way to Utah just to be a part of this hunt. So super grateful for them. I had another group of friends, Heston Morrell. He brought a couple of his buddies and they came to help us as well. Just kind of be extra eyes. So
just pause real quick. Like, that seems like overkill, but we were the small camp on the mountain. Like, we're like, okay, we finally found a giant. Let's call in all the killers we know. You know?
Yeah, we had a great group of guys, and like Matt said, that sounds like, oh my gosh, that's insane, and that is a lot of help for what I've ever had on a hunt.
Yep.
But we were the small camp on that mountain. I really thought we were going to have a lot when it was just 3 trailers. These other camps, nothing against it, like they were small towns. They looked like it was cool though. It looked like the old general season tradition style hunting. Like, everybody's camper faced in a way, have a fire pit in the middle, horses strung up on the ropes, like
couple dudes that stay back and cook, and just like clean
some
up.
kids in some of those camps.
Yeah.
So when people draw these limited entry tags, like it is a chance for anybody and everybody who knows that person to go experience a cool hunt.
Exactly. And that was my favorite hunt of the year, was this hunt. Just for the fact that like we had our camp trailers in a circle, dude. We were cooking some good food. We were seeing nice bulls every day, man. And it's like I never had that thought in my mind, like, if we kill. It was like, what bull? It was, which one are we going to kill, you know?
Yep.
So it didn't feel pressure for me, but I know as a tag, like you being the tag holder, I'm feeling that a little bit with my deer tag. Like, I'm not worried about killing a deer. I'm worried about killing the biggest deer I can, you know?
It adds a different level of stress compared to like those general season units where I know I'm just going to be happy kind of shooting anything.
Yeah.
But what happened is we saw that bull at last light. We all came together and made a game plan for the next day.
Shed crazy, drove through the night.
Drove through the night to be a spotter. His brother came. Heston and his buddies had a spot up on the mountain, and we strategically placed everybody in a way that we kind of had this particular canyon kind of covered.
Yeah. All the little fingers
Yep.
and faces covered.
So we go motor up in the dark. Again, we never like been on this mountain. So when you just look at it on OnX and say, all right, we're hiking up to that knob in the dark, should take like an hour. Turns out it's like way steeper and like nastier than you could have thought just looking at it on the map. But we just had to get to this cliff, and we studied it so much. I'm like, dude, we got to get to this cliff. And we made it there at first light. Everybody got settled. We're glassing like different bulls, kind of in different areas. And I think somebody had gone over there, like to the kind of the second little cliff.
Was
ledge.
it Nate?
Well, he came after me, but I thought Braden or somebody had gone over there and then come back. But anyways, there's kind of like two knobs.
Yeah. Two little like nipples.
Yeah, two little lookout nipples. The first one being like amazing. The second one just giving you a little better advantage of the same side you're on.
Yep.
So first light, we're spotting bulls, and it's like, man, the anticipation of knowing there's like a shooter in this canyon is so cool. When I have that, I'm just like, I don't stop. I don't give up. I'm so consumed by it. And I went to that second knob, glassed up a bull, and then saw the second bull and instantly was like, that's Kickstand. We named him Kickstand. So this clip was captured while I was like getting my gun and backpack ready. This clip right here was captured for those watching on the video. If you're just audio, we got a broadside look at Kickstand. This was the best look we got of him. And even after seeing that, I was like, well, he's compact. I knew he had short main beams, but dude, this bull's so cool. Big fronts, somewhat of devil tines, and then that extra kickstand off the main beam. I was like, let's go. And we just started running off this mountain, like aggressively running. And these moments, like, it's hard for me to like calm down and slow down, because I just have this idea of like, if we don't go get him now, he's gone, you know? But we ended up spooking the bull. I think we got so dang close. I think it was like when we were like coming over the edge and like trying to get, like, we were in his grill, right? That little finger they were on was like right there. But we never saw the bull. But luckily for us, Heston and his buddies captured the two bulls running out of the canyon. And that's why having like extra set of eyes is so helpful. Typically, I don't have that, and it was really nice to have some help.
Yeah, it was just nice that Heston's like, oh, that bull went up here, went over. Because if it was just us, we would have probably sat on that ridge till dark. Like, oh, dude, like he's got to just have fed down there. Like, we'll just sit tight.
Yeah, I would have assumed he was just in the canyon right below us.
Yeah.
So he got away that day, but man, we gave it hell. We gave it hell. We walked so far that day.
Yeah.
And we were out at like the furthest away point at dark, trying to look over every single elk we could. And it was never kickstand. So we got on his tracks in the snow, and to the best of our ability, tried to navigate his tracks through the snow mixed in with other bulls. And I think we all kind of came to the conclusion, like he went around that back knob.
Yep.
And he went right back down to where we saw him for the very first time. When Matt spotted him.
Yeah.
I was like, holy cap. He's right back where this all began.
It's a full circle, dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, like a 10-mile, 12-mile circle. Like, the ridges we were walking out weren't just little over the ridge. It was all day walks.
That was a big push over that last peak and coming down, into the sage flats where we had no clue where we were. Dude. Someone had to come get us in a truck so far away from the side-by-side.
Nate saved us that night. Yeah. Nate, and who else was with Nate?
Was Ben down there buzzing around?
I think so. I think there's a couple.
But Nate came and got us in his big truck. So that was kind of that day. And, you bump a bull like that, like he's bumped. I mean, we bumped that thing.
Yeah.
But like Matt said, he circled back right to where we first saw him. So going into the next morning, we're like, well, he's going to be right here again. And we set up where Heston was the day before. And we never saw him that day. We saw a nice 6-point down in the very bottom, but we never saw him that day. So we ended up spending that afternoon driving to town to get service. Matt and Braden had some videos to upload, like trying to manage the YouTube videos and all the content we do while we're out in the field is so difficult. That's another nice 6-point that we saw, like right below the cliff. But we spent that afternoon doing content, and I took a nap for the first time.
Dude, we were sleep deprived. Like, I know it kind of sounds silly, but
Well, it's just we're staying up late watching film, editing film.
4 a.m. to 10 or 11 p.m. every night, like, catches up to you after 6 or 7 days.
Yeah, I remember in the video, I'm like, well, guys, slow morning hunt. Pretty pathetic of me, but I'm like, going to go nap.
Yeah.
So the first day I decided to go take a nap. Woke up late, woke up and we milled around camp. We're just taking it easy, snacking. Everyone's resting. These guys doing content. And I told Matt, I'm like, we got to get to the cliff tonight. And I remember you and Braden both were like,
yeah.
Like we didn't have a lot of time.
I was like, bro, I was being lazy.
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, like,
It's a push.
let's just wait for the morning.
Like we're pushing up this like ledgy, slick rock, shell rock to get to this cliff. That's like at least an hour and a half hike, but steep, just to get to this cliff to look at like what would have been last light.
Yeah.
Not a lot of light left. And we get to the top. We're on the same perch where I spotted the bull the day before. And we're looking in the direction where we were looking. He should be in this canyon. And something just had it in me like, I need to go on the opposite side and glass that little small draw.
Yeah.
And I'm glassing it with my eyes and I see nothing. And everything is probably 400 yards, like 600 yards on this hill, depending on, how far you're looking across, just thick junipers. And I bring up my binoculars to my eyeballs and I start doing the grid system. And I'm doing left to right, right to left, left to right, and boom. Just in my binoculars, there's this bull just looking at me. And I could tell he had big fronts, just looking straight at me with the binos. I'm like, that's got to be him.
Yeah.
I just felt like he was hiding out in that little canyon.
Well, you told us that too. You're like, I just feel like he's right here. And I'm like, yeah, go over there, dude. I'm going to keep glassing this big country.
Yeah, what'd I do? Call it? Did I text you or call
You
you?
called Braden and you're like, Braden, give the phone to Matt or something. And Braden like hands me the phone and you're like, bring my gun and the spotter. And we're like, oh crap. So I just start filming and we like tiptoe over there and you're just like right there.
Yeah.
And I can see him naked eye and I'm like, oh,
You had him?
yeah.
So this is one of those moments where you walk away from your rifle going, what the, like, why would I walk away from my rifle? And it wasn't that far, but
Yeah.
it was way easier for those guys to bring it to me versus it would be me take my eyes off the bull and pull out.
No, you did it the smart way.
Yeah. So, I mean, this bull, body language is huge. Here's a tip. Here's the takeaway from this hunt. Like for those who have been out there a lot, you get to see their body language, which will allow you to read what they're doing, what they're thinking, and how they're going to react.
Yeah, the urgency of the situation.
Yep. So this bull is shaded up by some really thick pinyon junipers. So he's like in the trees.
Yeah, he's in his safe zone.
Yep. He's in the shade. He knows that something about, was it 500?
I think so. I should say, right?
We'll say like 550.
Yeah,
535.
535.
Yep. So this bull's 530 yards, looks up the canyon. He knows I'm there, but his body language is frozen.
Yeah.
He's staring at me, and I knew that his body language telling me he knows something's wrong,
Yeah.
but he feels hidden and safe to just stay put, so he's not going to make like any wild moves. And I knew he was just going to stay put. I just didn't know how long. Like I knew the bull wouldn't bolt off or wasn't planning on it, but I knew he knew something was up, and at any moment he could leave or like start to walk out of the canyon.
Yeah, dude, I remember we were just a well-oiled machine, like NASCAR pit crew right here,
Yeah.
handing you shooting sticks. I even chambered the bullet for you. Like, you're leveling the sticks. I'm chambering the bullet. Braden's got the big camera, setting up the spotter. And I remember right when I'm getting the spotter kind of zoomed in where I want it, I see him kind of turn his head and like move his legs a little bit. And I think I told you, I'm like, bro, like, hurry up. Like, he's
That was
moving.
the first time he had any movement, which
Yeah.
was his head. Didn't he just kind of look away?
Yeah.
But then right back at us?
Yeah.
So I didn't see that because I'm dealing with the sticks.
Yeah, you're dialing your turret. We're trying to throw a backpack under your back elbow, and dude, this whole sequence just gets me butterflies still. Like this was fun. This is what you work for, right? Is this scenario? And it goes by way too fast, but in the moment, everything kind of is moving in slow motion.
It's so fun when it's captured on video.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
in this moment, like, so I've got the backpack. I'm like, okay, I wanted something for the butt of the rifle to rest on. So Matt hands me his backpack. I try that out, and I'm like, no, we need more. He's like, bino harness.
Yeah.
So Matt's like ripping off his bino harness, which honestly gave me like the perfect setup. Yeah, right here, I'm like fumbling with the backpack.
Yeah, and just keeping this whole clip rolling was super cool. Just doing a little split screen.
That's another thing. Like in the moment, when I watch videos, like in the moment of the kill, I want to see like everything that happened.
Yeah, see, the bull just turned his head, looked uphill.
Yeah.
And this is like, okay, he looks like he's going to start walking away. Because him looking uphill to me is like, okay, that's the direction he's wanting to go.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
I like to let these parts of the video play out in real time so people can see and feel the anticipation of that moment. But Matt calls it right here on the last shot. He's like, just aim high on his shoulder. Boom.
Dude.
Which that was like that neck shoulder shot.
Just,
and stoned him.
well, like that angle, dude, just that contrast from where it goes from light to dark hide right there. I mean, that angle, top of the shoulder, and just stones him. And you already had one in his lungs, you know?
Yeah, that first shot, I think, would have killed him with time. But elk are so tough, and the saying is like, shoot them till they're dead.
Oh, 100%. I've been on too many hunts where you think an elk's stoned and he hops up and just takes off.
Yeah, those spine shock shots. So
Spine shock. Yeah, that's
that hunt just kind of came together. And, lucky for us, we were able to relocate the bull I wanted after pumping him really, really hard. So kickstand. Yeah, that's a killer hunt. That's on the YouTube channel as well. For you guys who are just listening on the audio version, highly recommend checking out our YouTube channel and even watching the podcast on the video platform, because we're replaying a lot of these video clips up on the big screen and kind of...
Yeah, these hunt stories are kind of just diving in depth to some of these crazy cool experiences we've had, and just kind of little takeaways we have from each one of these hunts, and some things that are hard to show with a camera. So it's an easier platform to kind of dive into all the little details. Shed Crazy looks like a giant coming through the trees right there.
Yeah, Ben and his brother Rocky, as soon as they heard the shot, Ben's like, I knew you had to have killed Kickstand. So those two muscled up the canyon pretty dang quick. They got to us really quick and were nice enough to help us cut the elk, pack out the elk. But those limited entry hunts, man, they spoil you. When you go on a hunt like that, you see bulls every day, big bulls every day. You start to wish, like, I wish I can have that tag every year.
Yeah.
And I'm dying to like go and do that hunt again, even if I'm not the hunter. Like, I would love to go with somebody with a tag and just do it again. Take that knowledge into another season. So, yeah, that was a fun hunt. I felt like I didn't deserve the tag, and I said that in the video. So it was kind of like a hunt for everybody. I was just the trigger man.
Yeah, man. That's one of the hunts I've been on that I felt more of a part and like more involved than like ever, like you said, like being the trigger man, but like it felt like it was all of our hunts,
Yeah.
Dang.
Killer good time. Yeah, that was a fun hunt. Kickstand. I ended up talking to some guides afterwards at the Hunt Expo that had been hunting that bull for a while. And then some other guys shared some summer velvet trail cam photos of him 27 miles away on another unit.
Like, what is that bull doing? Did you send his teeth in ever?
I did. He was 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah. So great frame. I feel like a couple more good solid years on him and he could have been bigger. You know what I mean? Just finished out on that back end a little stronger.
But that's not the data the biologists are telling us.
I know. That's what's crazy. The guy, that's what got me talking to that guy is he's like, you'd be surprised. He's like, I don't know if that bull would ever grow like too much bigger. Like, but all it takes is 1 inch on each point to, be, now you're like, he's 358, I think.
Yeah.
Get an inch on each point. That's a big scorching.
Yeah, 370.
But super pretty bull. Like, I just love the front facing look on him with those big unders. But he's just compact. All his points are really tight.
Yeah,
Once
like not a lot of space between
Yeah.
them. So takeaway on that hunt, what did you say it was?
For those limited entry hunts, just remember, keep in mind that once you're going into those limited entry hunts, you're going to be dealing with, I hate to use that word, but you're just going to encounter a lot of guides and outfitters.
Yeah, efficient hunters.
Oh yeah, they're good. But,
Yeah.
but like Matt said, if you see them, hey, the good news is you're probably in the right area.
Yeah, man. All right, man. So 5th and final hunt, Arizona, December.
Yeah, December hunt. So it's not often that you get the chance to hunt these elk, like big mature bulls in their true winter range. Like those November hunts, because of the snow, we were actually hunting them in what would I would consider like their winter range. But that's weather dependent in November. Come December, like those bulls are most likely piled up where they're going to shed their antlers and really stick the winter out. So in December, you're really trying to find these secluded areas. Typically, the bigger, older bulls I've found, and this goes for sheds too, is they just like to live in secluded country, like in the deepest, roughest country around, which is typically south-facing slopes, big canyons, rocky, grassy, with some cover. So I was taken in, being that I had never been in this unit, I had been not too far from here, and I had found some shed antlers before, so I was kind of looking for that type of terrain, and that's what I was like, looking at it on a map, kind of pinpointing some spots that looked like winter range, south slopes and big canyons. And so opening day, we went into some country, had no clue what to expect in this spot. I think, did Braden spot that first bull on the right side?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Braden had located a bull. We were trying to get a closer look at that bull when we spotted this other one. So you can see the country for those watching it on the video version. Look at where these bulls are living.
Dude, this is where a point like where we are really contemplating shooting one of these bulls. I'm like,
yeah.
How are we gonna get it out? Like hike it down and try and like float down a river or something?
This is probably one scenario where the pack out was on my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was like totally considering it as part of the shoot or not. Like allowing that to play into whether I would want to shoot a bull or not. Was this opening day bull. Really cool 6x6. We got some great video of him through the scope. He had like a compact frame, but he was super heavy.
Yeah, dude, like solid bull.
Yeah, here's a clip of him right here.
Like
I didn't realize
330, 340 type of bull.
I didn't realize how heavy he was. He may not be that big, Matt, just because those beams are so short, but I think he's one of those bulls you'd be pretty excited about how heavy he was.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of an awkward angle of him too. Like,
Yeah.
but I mean,
It was cool because we saw him from a distance. On our travels in, we lost him. And then we found him bedded like under the, like, look at this country, like under these cliffs. look at that video. So the bull is basically now feeding out underneath these cliffs and on a south facing slope, which is exactly what I was hoping for. And it's like, all right, here's a cool sequence, a nice bull, but it's day one. It's funny how like opening day can.
dude, if we
Like
would have
tricky.
found this bull like day 6, day 7, like
Shooter.
I feel like you would have been
Say
pulling the
you
trigger.
hadn't seen an elk for 6 days and then you saw that.
Shooter.
But when you see it opening day, you're
Yeah.
like, man, like if that's here, like what else is here? You
Uh-huh.
know, you start to get your hopes up.
And this is another like pretty solid tag. Like it's one of those that you're like, I could come over the ridge and kill the biggest bull of my life type of tags, you know?
Yep. Knowing this area, it's kind of like, all right, we might not see a lot of elk, but we might see the right elk,
Yeah.
especially this time of the year.
Just breakfast burritos at 4 a.m.
Yeah. Like pocket burritos.
Yeah.
Stuff them in your
That
pocket.
could
and eat
never
'em
get
later.
warm because we never woke up an hour early to warm them up.
Yeah. They're always like hot. They're always burnt tortillas and like cold on the inside.
Yeah.
But this hunt was fun. There's something about hunting like bachelored up bulls, which leads us to kind of this sequence right here. We kind of went into this canyon in hopes to find that other bull.
Yeah.
And before we got to that section of the canyon, we ran into these
Just
guys.
in the most heavenly meadow
Yeah.
you've ever seen.
And it was like the only heavenly meadow right there. It was at the top of those cliffs.
Pretty dang close to a road, too.
Oh, yeah. That's where we were like, if we shot these ones, they'd be easy to pack out. If we shot the other one, he's down in the bottom of the
This
canyon.
is me and Braden on your shoulder, like, bro, like, it's got a drop time. Like, this is epic setting. Like, we're in range.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for extras and unique points. And this bull is a 6-point frame with a kicker off the royal on the right. And he has like it looks like a thorn.
Yeah.
You know, it's much bigger than that, but he's got a straight as straight could be point coming off the main beam right underneath his second G2.
Yep.
So he's a 6x8, which that's cool. But he's just young. He's somewhat narrow. But for the most part, what kept me from wanting to shoot this one was he was young.
Yeah.
And you're always holding out for something bigger. But
You're like,
later,
what could that bull be?
yeah. I mean, he is pretty cool. Like, see, looking back at these clips now, I'm like, what was I thinking on both of these bulls? But going back to what I said at the first part of this podcast, how my emotions changed.
Yeah, your whole...
Yeah, the whole 5 for 5. Like,
You, like, almost not matured.
Well,
That's not the right word.
two things. After New Mexico is no longer a perfect score.
Yeah.
So I let go of the being 5 for 5. And then 2, at this point, I'd killed 3 bulls. And I was just very satisfied with the season. You know, I could have killed this one or that 6-point and like got it and got the film, did everything. But like I wasn't feeling like I needed to or wanted to.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because there's some of those people on social media that are like just killing just for content. I mean, this could have been some pretty good content if we wanted just to pull the trigger.
Which skimmed through this a little bit to where we saw the 6-point bedded under the cliff. This is probably one of my favorite scenarios. I've always dreamt, and I used to dream of mule deer bedded under a cliff.
Yeah.
But the more I've shed hunted some of this tough terrain, you always find these sheds under the cliff.
Yep.
It's like, man, you never see them here, though. I just find their sheds. Well, sure enough, we go down at the end of this canyon, and this is the 6-point from opening day. He's bedded underneath this cliff at the bottom of the canyon. I mean, this guy's living, he's smart.
Yeah.
He's living where he's hard to reach. Not so much that he's hard to see, but this is that moment where it's like, okay, he's at the bottom of the canyon. Do we really want to go like back him out of there?
Like it looks all grassy and gradual, but then you get like in the bottom of the canyon and you get those washes where there's like the waterfall, 10-foot drop offs, and then these cliff bands on both sides that are like vertical.
And we knew what was below us on our side.
Yeah.
Because now we're looking at the opposite. So now the bull is on the other side of the canyon where we were glassing him opening day, and we're on the side he was on. So we know what's below us.
Yeah.
It's like choppy cliffs.
It's not pretty.
I wouldn't want to walk in or out of there in the dark.
No.
But those were the best bulls I saw, and I was just hoping we could find a bigger bull. But it snowed, the roads got washed out. I'm beating the heck out of my truck, and I was really starting to get frustrated with driving around every day. We'll keep the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll keep the good stuff because Casey was on this same hunt. I don't want to spoil the beans on the podcast, but hopefully we're able to show that hunt here shortly. That's why we're showing you guys a timeline on Matt's computer. This is all edited for the most part.
Yeah, but this was one of those hunts that you were really like, you went in with an expectation, right, of kind of like a similar to your limited entry Utah hunt where you're like, oh man, we're just going to be looking over a lot of bulls. And then that wasn't really the case. And then you top that with terrible driving conditions, hardly any sleep. And then the weather was just something different every hour.
Yeah.
You know, like fog, snow, rain. And I mean, we grinded and it was cold and it was tough. A lot of hiking. Like,
well, when you see a nice bull opening day, like my train of thought at that moment was, well, there's probably a nice bull in every single one of these canyons, and there's like 4 or 5 of them.
yep.
And they're long, So there could even be multiple nice bulls in each canyon. Well, as we kept going through the hunt, exploring each of these canyons, seeing 0 elk. Next day, new canyon, 0 elk. And you're starting to think, I passed up a really nice one on opening day. But looking back, it didn't get me excited in that moment.
Yeah.
I don't regret it. Like, I look back and think, wow, that's a cool bull. I'd love to have him. But hey, maybe he'll be out there for another hunter this year.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's what's so cool about being able to do a podcast like this. It's kind of hard to kind of show that in some of these films. Like, I was able to hunt with BMAC last year on an Idaho limited entry tag he had, and we saw a lot of great bulls. We called in some bulls. We had some really close encounters. I mean, filmed. That's called Drawn Out, that hunt. It's on our YouTube channel. You can go check it out. Lots of elk footage in that one. And it's like, he ends up not punching his tag, but same kind of thing. I feel like he was satisfied. Like, he had multiple bulls in his crosshairs, and he's just like, man, this is just awesome. You know, he's getting that same fulfillment, and just
each tag, you just kind of have like a different expectation. And I think it's based on what that unit really has to offer. Yep. So if you get those tags like that, or the one BMAC had, you know that there's been giants killed and that there's probably still some out there. So you're kind of hoping and holding out. But put that elk hunt number 5 as my first hunt of the season, where I'm amped, I'm ready to go, and I'm like super excited. I probably would have been like pursuing that bull.
Tagged out day 1.
Yeah. So again, going back to the 5 for 5, like everything changed through the season, and what my expectations weren't like the reality. Some were.
Yeah.
Like Idaho was like perfect. Like, yeah, just like shoot a nice 6 point. And that's what I got. But I didn't expect like Colorado to be the way that happened. I didn't expect New Mexico to throw a curveball in me like that. So I'm excited to take that knowledge and try it again this year.
So what's the cadence? What order are you going in, and like how are you doing this?
The fun thing about this year is I am going to do 5 elk hunts, and they are the 5 same states. 2 of them are the same hunts, and the other 3 are like switching weapons and switching seasons. So I'm going to be able to showcase everything again from mid-August, because I'm going to do Utah archery, all the way into December again. So we're going to run it back. We're going to take that knowledge of this year, try to apply it into next year. We're going to be learning some new units this year. We're going to be trying some new spots I've never hunted. In some of those areas, I'm going to be hunting spots I have hunted. And I'm not going to have any expectations. I'm just going to go into it knowing that like anything can happen. I'm just going to try my best to hunt each unit and, you know, try to hunt the bigger, like the better stuff of what that has to offer. And I'm ready for another grind, like 5 elk hunts. The only way this happens is because last year they didn't overlap.
Yeah.
Which is wild. They overlap a little more this year, which could be challenging, especially the 2 archery hunts, but I'm up for it.
Dang. Yeah. I mean, if anybody's going to pull off 5 for 5, I'd be putting some money on you. I'm excited. I think I get to be on a couple of those hunts and looking at kind of some redemption in New Mexico and chasing some bulls up in Colorado where we've seen some bulls before. And yeah, man.
It's going to be different. And those of you who are subscribed to the YouTube channel know we'll be releasing all those hunt films throughout the season. We've got some really good ideas for how we're going to lay out our season this year. So watch for like updates on our YouTube channel. And for those of you who are listening on just the audio platform, you know, thank you. But when you get a chance, check out the podcast on YouTube. It's really interactive with the videos that Matt's sharing.
It is. And like, we'll have some podcasts where it'll be more favored audio only, but some of these hunt stories just cater so well to this video format. And like we said in our past podcasts, if you guys enjoy these podcasts, make sure you share them with friends and family. Leave a review, leave a comment, and like we've said, it really just gets us motivated to create more content like this for you guys. And so you guys are really the driving factor. If this keeps rolling weekly or we go back to a quarterly podcast, it's really up to you guys. Yeah. But I mean, I really enjoy these. I learn something every time. Sit down and talk to Eric, and I'm excited. I think we have some plans to have some hunt talks with some of the other members of the Hush crew. I think we're going to tie BMAC down and talk about some of his bigger bulls and some lessons learned on some of those, and kind of pick his brain on his scouting and tag application because he's pretty dialed there. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Closing words, Eric?
No, just want to say thanks again for watching, the support, all of you guys who purchase our merch. You know, it was really cool talking about the fireball on the last one. How many people were like, dude, I'm going to wear the hat happily wear the hat now that I know. So, again, just thanks to everyone who supports us, whether you subscribe or buy our merch. I have a fly bugging me. And we'll see you or hear us on the next podcast soon.
Adios.
See ya.